I am a simple girl from Canada who has now settled in India since past few years and whose life is quite normal and dull. I'm doing PhD from a university, and since childhood, I have never experienced anything that is out of the ordinary. Maybe that is why I like watching horror and thriller stories on YouTube sometimes. I used to enjoy the thrill knowing that this story was not happening to me, but after one of my incidents, these stories now fill me with a fear that I cannot describe in words. All this happened when I was living as a paying guest in a deserted area close to Jhalana Forest Reserve near Jaipur city of India. The elderly couple in whose house I lived were very kind and treated me like their family. But the location of their house was quite isolated. Although the area was calm and surrounded by nature, I often felt uneasy due to its proximity to Jhalana Forest. The area was known for its wildlife, especially tigers, which sometimes wandered into nearby settlements. That night I decided to stay awake till late. It must have been 2 a.m., though I can't say for sure. The house was completely quiet. The elderly couple had gone to sleep hours earlier. I was sitting in my room, on my phone. The wind was howling like a wild animal. Despite the chaos outside, I was sitting comfortably in my blanket, using my phone. Suddenly, the power went out. Power outages are common during storms, so I didn't panic. My phone's flashlight gave me enough light, which gave me some relief. I continued scrolling. After a while, I decided to sleep. I put my phone on the nightstand and turned to try to fall asleep. The last thing I remember right before falling asleep was the rhythmic sound of rain and the soft rustling of the wind. I woke up to a strange silence. The storm had now stopped and the air felt heavy. I turned over and tried to get myself comfortable, but my throat was dry. I tried to ignore it for a while, thinking I could fall asleep again. But the dryness in my throat became unbearable. I reluctantly got up, picked up my phone and turned on its flashlight. As I opened the door to my room, I felt a gust of cold air. The hallway was unusually cold, much colder than it normally should be. I shivered and quickly put on a sweater. Then I stepped outside. A strange smell was wafting through the house. A pungent earthy odor that I couldn't understand. The kitchen was at the other end of the hallway, and as I moved forward, the air started to feel colder. The wind outside had picked up again and was making the windows shake. When I reached the kitchen, I picked up a glass and started filling it with water from the tap. Then I noticed something that made my heart stop. The outdoor sliding door was wide open. I froze. My mind started racing. The elderly couple were very cautious about locking the door, especially with the presence of wild animals in the area. I tried to convince myself that maybe one of them had accidentally left the door open before going to sleep, but deep inside, I felt something was wrong. Slowly, I moved towards the door and peeped outside. The outdoor area was immersed in darkness, and beyond that, I could see a dense forest. I quickly closed the door and locked it. My hands were shaking as I returned to my room with a glass of water in my hand. The stench had gotten stronger now. The smell of wet mud mixed with something muddy and rotten. The stench was so thick in the air that my stomach started to feel nauseous. As soon as I reached my room, I immediately locked the door and stuck a chair under the door handle for extra security. The open door and the stench made me extremely restless. I checked my closet to get some peace of mind and even looked out the window to make sure everything was safe. Finally, I got back on the bed and kept my flashlight on to get some relief. And then the game began. I felt a slight, almost imperceptible movement under the bed. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but then I heard the clear sound of the bed frame. My heart started beating faster. I froze there, trying to convince myself that maybe it was nothing, but the stench had become unbearable. I had to muster all my courage. Getting my head together, I leaned over the edge of the bed and shone my flashlight under the bed. I was taken aback when the light revealed a huge figure, a leopard. Its golden eyes were shining in the light and its strong, shiny body was wrapped tightly under the bed. The presence of that animal was terrifying and unbelievable. It had probably sneaked in from the open outdoor area door to escape the storm. The leopard was staring at me. For a moment we both stood still without blinking. Then it let out a low, deep growl that sent shivers down my spine. Panic filled me and I jumped off the bed and ran straight for the door. I quickly moved the chair and opened the door and ran down the hall as fast as I could. I started banging on the door of the elderly couple's room. They opened the door and came out. They were surprised but immediately alerted by the fear in my voice. The elderly man, whom I called Uncle, picked up his emergency gun. We cautiously moved towards my room. As we got closer, I heard a heavy movement. We heard a rustling sound. The leopard had already left the door of the outdoor area that I had closed, but now it was open again. We saw its mighty shadow disappearing into the dark shadows of the forest. Uncle fired a shot in the air as if to warn, but it was too late. The leopard had disappeared. We immediately called the police and the wildlife rescue team. When they arrived, they searched the house and the surrounding area but found no trace of the animal. It had disappeared in the darkness of the night, leaving only wet paw prints near the outdoor area. The officials explained that leopards living near the Jhalana Forest often come into human settlements in search of food or shelter, especially during storms. They assured that they would inform the forest department and patrol the area, but by then it felt like everything was over. That night shook me. The leopard had come dangerously close, and if I hadn't woken up, who knows what could have happened. Living near the forest, I was always aware of wildlife, but this incident shook me and taught me how unpredictable and dangerous it can be. After that night, I never left a door or window open, no matter how safe I thought the place was. Nature has its own rules, and it doesn't care how prepared or unprepared you are. If you liked this video, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you have a similar scary story, then do share it with us.